safe. That's how they feel seen and heard, and then ultimately supported, because you can move through that and create results for them. As we're calibrating touch and recognizing the nervous system, we're also calibrating everything. How you touch them with your words, how you touch them with your tone, how you touch them with your energy. And you still can't control their response to it, but you get to know that there's going to be a response to it if they're in pain, because that's the nature of pain. That's what it does. You're not talking to the same wiring. The person in your life that took what you said out of context when they were in pain, you would also recognize that they wouldn't have done that, taking what you said out of context when they weren't in pain. That's your proof right there. Their wiring is different when they're in pain. And you add medication on top of that, you're not even talking, they're not there. They're just not there. And it's super sad, which is one of the reasons why I really want us to lean into the preventive part of what we do, even if we could just circumvent the decision to get on medication in the first place. If they could just be at that low grade, oh my gosh, I don't think I can take it pain before they jump to medication, we would actually be serving them a lot, because they would still be there and available and present to what you're saying. I'm not saying don't take meds. I'm saying it's not my preference that folks be on meds. And in fact, as a manual therapist, we were told that we needed to know exactly what medication they were taking before we even did hands-on with them, because they wouldn't feel half of what you were doing. It's why I took pharmacology in my undergrad, because I really did need to know, like, what actually is happening to someone's body and their brain when they're on medication. And so I always tell my clients, don't even take an Advil before you come, because it's masking things and I won't be able to get feedback from your body, which is wildly present to your pain, or it wouldn't be changing your chemical cocktail. It's literally involved. I don't want that to go away. I want to know what we're navigating here so we don't cause more pain, more pain. Hi, Sophia, glad you're here. So calibrating touch is calibration on all things, and it changes once pain is present. That's the bullet point takeaway on that first topic. Yes? Got it? Assessments. I have so much to say about assessments. I wish I had more than just the time on the clock. Whew. Some of us think assessments, let me say this differently. Sometimes when we hear the word assessment, what comes to mind is the actual physical assessments that you do. Raise this, do that, turn here, lift that, etc. And that's true. Yes, yes, absolutely. The assessment conversation I want to have today is more about the assessment at the start of their session before you do that type of assessment. Meaning your subjective intake, which we have talked about here at some length, and we talk about it for multiple years in the Schatz method community, because there is so much value in that subjective intake. What your client and patient offers you at the very beginning is so valuable that most of us miss really important details about what's actually going on. We also miss the opportunity to have the treatment plan spelled out for you. You don't have to work so hard. If you know what you know and you're skilled at it, all you got to do is listen, and they will tell you exactly what needs to happen. And you're like, I just heard it. This is what needs to happen. And that is a skill in itself, just to be able to listen like that. And mind, Cheryl, you're nodding because we've just done a training on this. And there's so much gold in there, and it just takes a bit of time to practice that. Part of the time that's involved is your own filter while you're listening. We just talked about that with calibrated touch. But when you're listening in a treatment space with your client and your nervousness is low grade chirping, you can't actually hear what they're saying. You're clouded, and you're not even in pain. Still clouded. There's like someone else talking in your ear and someone else talking in that ear, and you can't quite make out who's saying what. That is skill-based. You get to practice that. You get to be drilled on your subjective intake. I drill my practitioners. What did you hear? What did that mean? What's the implication of that? What's the implication if that doesn't happen? You made up a decision based on what? These are the kinds of skill sets that I want us to all have so that you can be clear and only listening when someone's talking. And most of us believe we already are until we go through this training of your subjective intake, and I can hear things that other practitioners don't hear. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, like, I'm more present. I've got more practice at it. So I can be more of an open vessel. I also have really taken myself on what does this all mean? What's the implication of this mechanically? And I've literally walked it through. And that is the challenging part of listening, what you do with the information you've heard. And my experience is that for practitioners to really get that, they need to be held accountable to it. They need me to be challenging them on that. If you're able to do that on your own and actually hear everything that was said and not miss a beat, then good, amazing for you. And then you get to take yourself on and, well, what's the implication of that? And don't make up an answer. That's the default. With some practitioners, you're like, I got it, Gina. I got it. I don't need you. All right, except that you just made up a story that's not actually with what they said or how the anatomy works. How about we just be honest about where the gaps are? And again, drive to be really excellent. And I don't mean to say this in a way that sounds derogatory in any way, guys. I mean it to say it in the most humble, supportive way possible. For you to really be a specialist and have a niche application of who you serve and the results that you create, you get to not mistakenly think that you've got the answers. It's almost the opposite. You got to believe that you don't have the answers and you've got to strive to get them, which is not the same as let chatter go on in your head and not hear anything and be hard on yourself. What I mean is like, don't imprint client A with client B. Don't imprint what I said worked for me one time on your client that might be coming in next week. Don't do that. Be really clear on who's in front of you and exactly what they're saying and exactly what that means, which requires you have to have a lot of knowledge in you that you can call on and then synthesize. Knowledge in a workbook is not the same as synthesizing that knowledge. It's totally different. It's totally different. And I know that because I hear that from my practitioners. They come through level 1 and they're like, I got it. I got your method. Makes total sense. Wait, what do I do? Wait, what's exactly? And that's it's not a dig. That's just part of that's part of the skill of really synthesizing what you, if we just came in book smart, we would be so dry that we wouldn't actually see the person in front of us and we wouldn't hear them, which would mean that we probably wouldn't be asking them questions either. Part of why we don't ask questions is because we don't know what to do with the information they give us anyway. Another reason why we ask questions is because we're actually filling gaps because we don't know what to do. So we're going to make the client talk and fill time. If you catch yourself doing that, this is what I mean. Just be humbly honest that you're doing it and strive to do something different. Because that means you're not acting like a specialist in that moment. You're skirting. And if you want to be excellent, you'll recognize when you skirt and you'll take yourself head on so that you stop doing that. That's what I meant when I said, assume I know nothing. Take myself head on. I need to know all of this right now. And then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. And so you're like, I actually do know it. I got it, which takes some time. Not forever, but it takes some time. It doesn't happen in a weekend workshop. And it just doesn't. So assessments, back to subjective, everything that they're sharing with you has gold in it, or they wouldn't be saying it. Your job as the specialist is to know the nuances and the meaning about what they're saying and their implications. And then once you have that kind of clarity, then you get to have the skill and what to do about it. Specialists have a lot. They have a lot. Now, as it comes back to current day and assessments, as you know, I've been playing with my physical therapy robot. I got a phone call yesterday that said, you haven't logged in and we want you to keep going. And otherwise, we're going to take away your device. Fine. I'll still play because I want to learn what this robot's learning and I'm going to give it no information anymore. Cool. It's giving an assessment of what it thinks I'm doing. And here's a really interesting part. I know about optimized alignment and how optimized alignment optimizes function. That's literally the name of my game. And I will be in front of this camera that's literally got a whole view of my body and it's got lines on me, like it's assessing where I am in space. And it'll ask me to do something and I'll distort some of my alignment somewhere else, which would actually challenge the work that they're asking me to do, and the device won't pick up on it. Which means I could, if I didn't have enough information, I could hurt myself with that device. Now that might sound really reassuring. Oh, good. So see, the device isn't as good as me. I can't be replaced by a device, except that we've got to remember this, guys. These devices are doubling their knowledge and information and skill every 3.25 months. So if we want to outpace them, or at least stay in line and not get bombarded and overridden by them, that means that we must be doubling our knowledge and our skill set every 3 months, or we will be outpaced. It's just what's happening. Again, if you're freaking out and you're like, oh my God, Gina, you're triggering me. I'm not triggering you. You're not listening and wanting the information to motivate you. This is what I'd like you to do with that information, which is where I'm at. And I'll share this with you because it works for me. I want where I'm at and where I'm going and the space in between to inspire me. I don't want where I'm at to panic me or make me righteous or arrogant, or where I'm going be completely daunting. I want the gap in between to inspire me to go there.